Now, John, if we maybe switch gears a little bit and talk about the what areas will you work jointly with the Environmental Agency and the Republic of Ireland? If you could give us a sense of where those areas are that you're most working with them.
Happy to. Well, we work jointly with the agencies throughout the British Isles, with SEPA Environment Agency and our colleagues in the EPA and the Republic on a number of issues and sharing best practice and common research, etc. But the particular issues we're working with the EPA and the Republic on would include research on common environmental indicators for North and South, because we believe it's sensible to have same indicators. We've done work jointly on river basin planning because unlike the other agencies in the UK, we're the only ones with an international border, and rivers don't respect that, so we have common river basins, and we have common river basin plans for the international areas of those. We're also working with them on joint study with through Intertrade Ireland on the impact of environmental regulation to trade north and south, because even though we're all implementing very much the same European regulations, different application of the regulations can have different standards north and on either side of the border, and that can be a barrier to trade. So we're working with Intertrade Ireland to get a better handle of that and see if we can be a bit more harmonisation on standard regulation to make it easier to deal with that. But the EPA are only one of the authorities we work jointly with in the Republic. We're also doing a lot of work with Dublin City Council, who are the national authority for frontier shipments of waste out of the Republic, and there's waste transferred from north to south and vice versa. Things like tyres, etc., are being shipped back and forward at various stages and exported. So we work with them in managing that. And a particular piece of work we're doing with them and the Department of the Environment, Heritage and Government of the Republic is the repatriation of a lot of illegally dumped waste. That was municipal waste from the Republic, which was illegally deposited in Northern Ireland in the early part of the last decade. And we've started a programme of repatriation of that, and we cleaned up 2 out of 20 sites in 2010. This year we've completed those, and we have another 18 sites to do over the coming years, and we're working very closely with them on how to manage that.
What's the scope of that problem? You said there's 20 sites. Are they fairly large?
The total we estimate is in excess of 250,000 tonnes of waste.
250,000 tonnes?
Yeah. And we're not sure the estimate. One of the learning points we've had from the 2 sites we've done is that if anything, we were underestimating the amount of waste, and certainly we got more there than we expected. So it is a big problem, and it rages mainly around the border areas, but some of it is also even County Antrim, which we're going to have to repatriate, so it's quite an extensive piece of work to do.
And what's the cost involved, for the first 2?
There's 2 sets of costs. There's the cost of actually digging it up and shifting it, and there is a lot of resource required because you just don't dig it up. We have lots of methane problems, hydrogen sulfide problems to deal with mobilisation. And that's one cost which is being jointly shared between the Republic and ourselves. We're paying 20% of the cost, and agreement reached by ministers around the Republic are paying 80% of that cost to take it back. But then our colleagues in the south then are faced with also finding the landfill site to do that and meeting the landfill charges. So there's a much greater cost on that side for the Republic. Early costs, I think numbers were thrown at, could be 20-30 million. I think one of the things we found is actually from the early work we've done, the cost to actually excavate and remove is probably less than we thought it was going to be. But the quantity has gone up, so we're still looking and running to see what it is. But it is many millions of pounds, it's an excess. And some of the people involved in illicit waste have been convicted and taken to court, and so indeed some have served prison sentence for it. But recovering that cost is still an ongoing issue, and I know colleagues in the Republic are looking at and examining the waste to see if they can do anything to try and find out who the perpetrators of the problem were and whether they can recover any of the cost.
Because the operators tend to be judgment-proof in many cases. Now, John, are there any problems after you investigate and excavate the material and it's transported back to the Republic? Are there any problems in terms of remediating the sites? Is there any groundwater contaminations or soil that has to be remediated?
Any contaminated soil we would find would be excavated and removed at the same time. Before we excavate, there's a survey is carried out and protection is put in to stop any contamination during the excavation going in, so there's good protection put in for that. The remediation, once you get everything out, is pretty much just about importing topsoil and spreading and trying to restore it to something else. And the 2 sites we've done have been relatively relatively easy to remediate. There wasn't a huge problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very much trying to simply return them to what they would have been before the waste was put there.
Okay.
We haven't tried to enhance them in any way beyond
Mhm.
that.
And now, that's really kind of an example, too, of cooperation in terms of enforcement. Were some of those enforcements, criminal enforcements, in Northern Ireland as well as in the South, or were they mostly against the illegal
The
dumpers?
successful ones that I am aware of were in the north because the evidence wasn't available to the authorities in the Republic.
Mhm.
We had the waste, we knew whose van it was on,
Mhm.
we were able to trace that through and through.
Okay.
That's why colleagues are examining the waste that's being excavated now. Now some of it has been in for 8 or 9 years, so it's
Right.
difficult to look at, but they are getting evidence from it and hope to use that for prosecution in the Republic. But certainly we have had, any prosecutions we have had have been successful on those sides.
And it's one of the fun things to do. I was in environmental enforcement in the States and did toxic waste sites, and going through
Yeah.
trash and seeing whose trash it was is a very
Yeah.
exciting thing to
Well,
do. It's much more exciting if you get somebody else to do it, John,
Yeah,
believe
absolutely,
me.
absolutely.
Now, John, just to wrap up, there are so many things that you do, your agency does. What do you see on the horizon for 2011 as kind of the critical issues that you think might be facing the agency?
The critical issue, I think, as any public agency at the moment, is funding, what the budget's going to be, and you're probably aware that in Northern Ireland we have not yet settled the 4-year budget, so we're still a bit uncertain as to what that is. But I think everybody agrees it's going to be a tighter financial regime going forward. So the big challenge is how are we going to meet that and how are we going to match that. And we're adopting a range of strategies, from efficiency exercise with ourselves and some of the work we've done in streamlining the department, puts us in a better place for that. But also looking at can we raise more revenue? As I say, we operate 190 state monuments, we've 7 country parks. Can we generate more revenue from that, which would be used in the business? Can we work with others in partnership to do more from theirs? One of the things was, I said earlier, we're very much the environmental pillar of the sustainable development. We are also fundamental to economic activity in 2 main areas: one, agri-foods and agriculture, which obviously market on a green image, and we help with that and support that. But also in tourism, we're a big input into tourists. So working with colleagues in Department of Agriculture and Department of Tourism, accessing common funding programs, using to get common goals from it is one way to look at it. And probably an area where we're keen to work also is on health and well-being. Given that we provide access to the countryside, we provide beautiful places for people to go, we interpret what people see so they get a sense of place. We're very much also supporting health and well-being and working with colleagues in the Department of Health and Social Services and also Public Health Agency, looking for synergies there between their programs and ours, so as we can keep the investment, keep our work going, will be key to it as well. So there are many ways we're trying to do that. I'm working also with our partner organisations. We fund many land management organisations or NGOs involved in that, and working with them to see can they do more and help, because they leverage in a lot of external funding through things like Heritage Lottery Fund, etc. But also a huge amount of volunteering and social capital they bring into it as well. So work with those to see if we can all collectively do more with less, which is the challenge.
Yeah, and I guess the NGOs are also worried about some of their funding from you being cut back as well, I think.
Very
That's
much,
right,
and they've had, I'm afraid they've suffered a bit of that in the past 2 years as we dealt with the planning fees problem within the department. Our budgets have been cut, but we currently put somewhere between fund between 2.7 and 3 million pounds a year going to NGOs at the moment, and certainly one of the things we're keen to do is try to protect that, to make sure that many of those, I think we're going to have to be more strategic in how we look at that, making sure that what they do actually are prioritised the things we really need to be doing, and I think they and themselves, I think, would welcome that. A bit more of a strategic approach to how we fund NGOs would be important to them going forward.
Well, John, we wish you the best of luck, because we know you're going to need it with this economic situation. Well, hopefully that'll clear up a little bit for you, and best of luck with your new policy role too.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. It's been a great pleasure speaking to you this morning.
Thanks, John.